Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm chatting with a panel of fantastic filmmakers ahead of their film screening at the Achill Island International Film Festival. So the festival takes place from May the 11th to the 13th. Great. So first up, thank you guys so much for chatting with us. It's lovely to have you here ahead of the festival.
It's good to, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's lovely to see everyone.
And on this fine afternoon on Zoom. So I was going to just get you guys, so people get used to your lovely voices, to introduce yourselves and then a little bit about your film. So your elevator pitch or your log line, either is fine. So I'll start from the way I'm looking at it. Sinead.
Sure. So I'm Sinéad O'Loughlin. I'm the writer-director of Lamb. And so Lamb is a psychological thriller about what happens on an ordinary day when a stranger walks into a woman's home. And there you have it.
And it's a tense roller coaster ride for the viewer. Starts off lovely and kind of sweet, a mom making toast, and then it goes downhill from there. So great, so much tension into such a short film. And again now to a very different style of film. Shaun and Ciaran, why don't you guys go and chat to us about your film?
Go ahead, Shaun. Our film is it's sort of a horror comedy combined with a music video for national treasure and Irish country singer Daniel O'Donnell. It's Day of the Dead meets Daniel O'Donnell. A mysterious threat threatens his local town, and it's up to Daniel O'Donnell to spring into action and defeat the evil with the power of music and save the day with the help of the locals.
And so that's Shaun Doogan and Ciaran McCann. Am I saying that right? Doogan, is it?
Yeah, Doogan. D-O-O-G-N. It's a Scottish name. Scottish last name.
And that brings us on to Sarah. Sarah, tell us a little bit about Candy.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sarah Grant. I'm the writer-director of Candy, which is a body positive romp comedy drama. It's about plus-size burlesque enthusiast Mandy on the run-up to her first ever public performance in burlesque, and it doesn't really happen the way she wants it to, which is in this glitzy jazz club, but rather on top of a car in the dodgy end of Glasgow, which is still sexy.
And it is, and it deals with some very serious themes in a very kind of warm and empathetic way, and in a way that tricks you into dealing with hard stuff, because it's very funny, and it's a kind of testament to female friendship, which is so lovely. So definitely. Again, a great mix of things. So I'm going to chat to you, Ciaran, about Night of the Daniels, since I didn't get to fully get introduced to you in that section. And so this is Ciaran McCann. Can you tell me a little bit about the inception of Night of the Daniels?
Well, I suppose the inception started. Well, we live very close to Daniel O'Donnell. We're basically neighbours. And he had seen our videos in the past, and we decided just to reach out to him, and we were like, can we make a video for you? And amazingly, he said yes. And then even more amazingly, we came up with this ridiculous storyboard, because we wanted to go all out and make something that people were going to remember. And we sent him the storyboard, which obviously involved the town being attacked, him slicing things with a sword, burning things with a flamethrower. And incredibly, he didn't have any pushback on any of the ideas.
No notes.
No notes. He just gave us the green light. And yeah, we're just extremely lucky to be able to make something that bonkers for someone with, as big a name as he does, So, I don't know, all credit to him and his, I guess you could say, bravery for putting the trust in us to make something like that. So yeah, I don't know, just a lot of good luck, and things fell in at the right place, So I don't know, very lucky.
So one of the things that I think is very interesting is just with regards to budget. So this is a film that you guys have that there's a lot of effects. Like it's very high concept. There's giant Daniels, there's wax figures that get very violent, there's some zany townspeople. Was that all of the kind of low-key music video budget that it would be squirreled away? Is that something like a labor of love for people?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say about this project is that it couldn't have been made anywhere else in the world. If it wasn't made in our hometown and Daniel's hometown, then it wouldn't have been possible to have been made, because the amount of favors and and goodwill that we received. Because the budget, I know it's Daniel O'Donnell, but the budget wasn't big, and we had to rely on, like I said, favors, and it really turned into almost like a community project. So that was kind of heartwarming in a way. And then, yeah, me and Shaun just had to rely on a lot of, I don't know, MacGyvering and gaffer tape, and we had to do everything ourselves. Build the set. All the special effects were done by me and Shaun. So yeah, it was a real higgledy-piggledy job, but somehow came together. So
a beautiful disaster.
And there's a lot there that I want to probe into with regards to the process of this specific project. But what I'm going to do is problem solving. But Sinead, just tell me a little bit about so Lamb was a focus short, which, if anyone doesn't know, is a Screen Ireland funding scheme. And I just want you to talk a little bit about your inception in putting that script together, going through the funding process, hearing back from Screen Ireland. Just tell me a little bit about how it was made.
Sure. So I think it was actually 2018 when I came up with the original idea. And so I work a lot with Arcade Film, and they're in the room right now and I'm talking about them, so I've got to say nice things. But so I worked on all my films with Arcade, so it's Cillian Waters and Dan Keane. And so I remember telling Dan about the initial idea, because the initial idea was, I suppose, the scenario of this guy walking in and the positioning in the room. And I didn't have the ending at first, but they were really into it, and they were encouraging me, and I kept working on it, and I knew I wanted to put it into focus short. So I suppose we applied originally in 2018 and didn't get it. And so we were, with the way the funding works, or did at the time, is that you can apply a second time with the same project. But that would be it. So we kind of had a chat and thought that we would strengthen our application by getting a producer to come on board, which was Lara Hickey. And then, funnily enough, it was the last funding application that I did before COVID. It was we submitted it in March 2020. So the way it worked before...
And just out of curiosity, just to break that down. So would they have given you feedback on the application and said,
Sure.
look, I don't know, this part of the script needs working on, or is it just like a flat no, try again next year?
Well, we were shortlisted for interview the first time, so that was helpful. In many ways, kind of just getting shortlisted for interview was good for us, because we did a certain amount of prep before going into the room. We didn't get any feedback about the script. I mean, I don't think there was any issues about the script itself. So I mean, by the time I went into the room, we just finished my second short. So I kind of felt it's that thing where you kind of had to think afterwards, okay, are there any things that we could do to strengthen it? And we as a kind of group kind of felt, I think it'd be good for us to kind of work with a dedicated producer. So we didn't get any notes about changing the script. And so we personally thought, I think, you're kind of guessing, but I think the combination of having Lara come on board, but also at that point, I had a bit more experience as well, which might have helped, because it is a very competitive scheme. So then the second time, we also had so much more prep done going in, because we had done a certain amount of prep for the first time. So you have all that material going forward. So by the time we got interviewed in late 2020, the project had been developing for 2 years, which is quite a long time. We talked about a lot. We kind of knew everything. And thankfully they did go ahead with the scheme, even because of what happened with COVID, which I'm really grateful for, because they could have easily just cancelled it that year. But we found out, I think, around Christmas time that we got it, and we shot in June 21. So, you know, I think we were the first focus short to shoot after the restrictions were somewhat lifted. But that was our experience of it. Yeah. And I know this year they've increased the budget and they've given it to 10 filmmakers, whereas it was 4 when we did it. So it's a great scheme, and it's great to see more people being able to kind of take advantage of it now.
And how did you find the implementation of it? Because I think was there still COVID restrictions or anything by the time you got around to shooting it?
Yeah, it was a funny one. It all came together very quickly, I suppose. Well, it kind of has to. It's always like that. But it was in between restrictions, which was really challenging because I think people could travel internally. So finding a location was really hard because oftentimes you'd look at, I needed a very specific layout of a kitchen, and oftentimes you'd look on Airbnb and stuff, but everything was booked out because everybody was doing their staycations. And then also because there'd been such a bottleneck of there was a bottleneck because production had been delayed for so long across the board. So it was really hard to get crew. So everything was, it was quite stressful to kind of pull it all together. We found a location, thankfully in East Cork, where I live, because I really wanted to make it in Cork because I'm based in Cork now. But I was kind of willing to go anywhere location wise because it was proving difficult, but it all kind of just came together then. So like it was very intense because of crew availability and all of those things. But then because we shot it quite early on in the process, we knew we were going to be premiering in Galway the following year. So we actually had quite a long time for the edit, which I think was to our advantage. And then it became too much. So because we were the first to shoot and the last to deliver, which is really bold of us, but we got it over the line. But I do think a long edit for me personally worked very well on this project.
Because it can be hard to see things with those fresh eyes as well. But I'll ask you more about the edit process, actually, definitely, because I think your one is something that hinges on timing so massively.
Sure.
But I'm going to move on to Sarah. So Sarah, you have live shows, performance, sex scenes. So in a time of intimacy coordination, you have like dark themes and a humor to it as well throughout the whole thing, which is no kind of mean feat. Tell me a little bit about the project and getting it across the line from script stage to production.
In terms of Candy, the story kind of came together through lots of different things at the same time. For those who are listening instead of seeing, like, I'm a plus size woman, and I try to do a lot of work to kind of champion plus size people on screen. And something that I keep coming back to is that whenever you see a positive plus size person, they're always playing the best friend character to a thin lead. So we have this fat girl best friend trope that just kind of like doesn't really have her own development. So I kind of was wanting to create this film that potentially was like, what if we had a classic fat girl best friend narrative, but then we made her the main character? So her, like, Mandy is wanting to do burlesque, and she's a silly character, she's a comic character, she's the comic relief, but that's really important to her, while her best friend Jenna is struggling because she's living with a coercive, controlling partner, and it's becoming more and more apparent that he's controlling her body. She's a professional dancer and he's having some serious problems with that, and it's always so attractive as a storyline. But what I kind of wanted to do is to be like, yes, that is an attractive storyline, drama, we're always going to be pulled towards that. However, that doesn't mean that this other character with her silly wants and her like self-proclaimed sexiness and her gobby mouth, like, doesn't mean that her story is any less valid in this narrative. So it was kind of it came together that's how we kind of came together. Also, this is my first, I'd made a lot of self-funded things before, crowd-funded, but this was my first industry-funded short, so I wanted to make something that reflected where I was as a filmmaker as well. And it felt that Mandy is like all confidence in private, but it's being confident in private versus, like, actually out in the world is a different thing. So I kind of felt the same way. Like, I knew that I could make films, but in terms of give me a budget and put me on the stage of industry, and I knew that I could do it, but it was just a case of it was still scary. So it kind of felt that because of all those things were rooted in such deep realities for me, when it came to, like, getting the script together and then getting it over the line, there was such a clear vision that was easily to articulate to all the execs involved and all the people involved, and everyone that kind of came on to the project just kind of knew me and knew what I was trying to do. So it was a really easy process. And Misha, our producer, who I went through our Scotland's equivalent of like the BFI network program. So I kind of went through a development process for 3 months and then pitched for the funding, was awarded the funding, and then I went looking for a producer. So Misha kind of came on when we were already doing it, already there, but it was really great to kind of have this thing that I'd kind of worked on for a while and then hand it over. And then she brought together this incredible crew that just everybody got it. Everybody got it. Everybody was supportive, and everyone was like, "We know what you're trying to do, and we know why it's different." And so it just, for me, it felt very, very easy. I'm also in the film, which was never going to be it was never what was intended. I have done performance stuff before, but very rarely when I'm directing. But because I had such a safe environment for myself, I kind of felt that I could put my money where my mouth is. And I felt that if I did this one time, then I'd never have to do it again. I could work with plus size actors and say, I'm never going to ask you to do something that I haven't done myself. I got my BAPS out in February in Scotland on top of a car.
So
I
cold.
worse than that.
Yeah, so it is. It's and that's actually one of the things that I thought was very kind of lovely about this film. But there is sort of, again, it like sex scenes. I think now we have to tackle it in such a way that like it's both very very justified, but also like handled it very sensitively for the actors. So would you have had an intimacy coordinator? I suppose you're the director as well, so you're not going to screw yourself over.
Yeah, no, I think intimacy coordinators and wellbeing coordinators are very important, and I'm really glad to see more and more of them come into the industry, and we're spending more time and focus and more money into making it might make things harder for the producers and it's harder for the production, but it's worth it. It's worth like scaling down on other things to make sure that everyone is safe and having a good time. Mental health in our industry is absolutely shocking, and there are things we can do about that. So yes, I worked with an intimacy coordinator. It was very I kind of didn't want to shy away specifically from that, as much as I felt like I knew that as the director, I was like, I don't want to shy away from like the plus size body. I don't want to hide it. I don't want to feel ashamed of it. But then as the actor, I was like, I hate myself. I hate that I'm doing this to myself. So I worked with an intimacy coordinator, which made things a lot easier, which was brilliant. At the same time, I still hated doing the intimacy scenes, but it's because as the director, I don't think I was actually just as the actor in the room. I think if I was just the actor, then I would have felt so great being in that process. But because I felt I was thinking about everything, I almost couldn't switch my brain off from it. So I definitely didn't have a good time doing it. But I think that the difference between not having the best time or like as an actor sort of thing and being able to do it was having the intimacy coordinators there, and was operating with closed set policies, and was just having everyone on board for what it was that we were doing, stepping away from monitors and just creating like a really good space for everyone in the room. So it was great to be part of that, both kind of as the director and as the person who was like personally reaping the benefits from that space.
And it does, and you really capture that arc of Mandy's kind of growth as a human. Like, you know, she's someone who wants to try so hard to do what she loves, and is kind of like being held back, but also being pushed back by the world. Like, there's just brilliant writing where you have her being negged so often, and like in these kind of like subtle, almost well-meaning ways, that it just felt like the writing was just really, really truthful. So actually, tell me a little bit about how the development process worked there. So would you have had the polished script when you went to Misha? Would you guys have done another draft together? How would it have worked?
We had a pretty polished script when Misha came on board, and then a lot of things kind of changed, like as things do when you start to actually, when it becomes more, this isn't something that we'd like to make, here's the realities of the budget, the time constraints and everything else, then things slightly changed. But not much had to change. Not much really had to change from what was already there. I had a great development process. We had these really great mentors that were through the scheme. We also had peer review. So I was working in a cohort, which when we were still having online sessions, it was great to have people in a cohort and a WhatsApp group. Writing can be so lonely, and especially when there's an element of like personal experience being put into your script, or a bit of your heart being put into your script. It's just so nice to have people that are looking after you as well. And I loved the mentors that they had on, and two of the mentors actually came on after the film was funded, and their job was done as the mentor of the cohort, but they came on as executive producers because they were like, we really love this and we're invested and we want to help it. So that's how I got Blazing Griffin, the post-production house, involved, and they offered so much like space. This was my first step into like industry funded, we were like, you need a really strong producer, but we kind of didn't. Misha had done lots of production management, production coordinating, but she was stepping up as well. But it was because we had Blazing Griffin and the producers attached as execs that they were able to be like, you're not taking a risk by letting two people step up into these roles that we know that they can do it. They've just never done it at this level before, but we know you're ready to take that step. So it was really great for allowing people to step up as well.
And sometimes that works really well because you have someone who's like so invested in doing the very, very best and calling in every favor that they possibly have, like from the professional experience. So I want to now actually go and chat with Ciaran and Shaun about the production element of your thing. So you got Daniel on board. You have your setup. How do you sort of go about like planning a shoot for this? Like, what does that sort of look like on a basis? Because there's like, it's so ambitious, it's so physical. Like, there's so much blocking, this composite. Like, how does that process work?
Yeah, so the storyboard stage or the script stage is where you can dream, and I think we just never there was nothing that we scrapped because we thought we couldn't do it. We just everything we wanted to be in the video ended up being in the video, for better or for worse, because some of the stuff, like you said, was quite ambitious and quite hard to pull off. Yeah, I suppose just we came to him with the idea in its entirety, and nothing changed from there, and we just sort of threw ourselves head on at it. And we have a background in animation, so we thought we could do most of the effects and in kind of a camp way where it's like doesn't take itself seriously, and if it looks tacky then it works, but if it looks like we're trying too hard, and it might fail that way. But yeah, we just thought, screw it, let's do this. Let's do this as cheaply as possible. We don't have the time, we don't have the money, but a few favors here and there.
How long was the shoot then? And like, how do you kind of go about sourcing locations? Because you did have to sort of build the concept of an entire wax museum and opening and give across the vibe of that, which isn't an easy task at all.
Yeah. Oh, it was at the beginning of production, or when we wrote the script, there was actually a Daniel O'Donnell museum in our local town, and they had big glass boxes with mannequins wearing Daniel O'Donnell stage outfits, and we were like, this is just sitting here, we could write a script around a wax museum of Daniel O'Donnell's that comes to life, a mysterious curse, and like do it in Halloween. But then COVID hit, and that the wax museum closed down, but we still had the idea, and he had agreed to the idea, and we had to wait for COVID to kind of wash over, and then there was no wax museum, so we had to end up booking out a gallery, and we had to build our own. We called the local hotel. They had like a runway, and we just sort of like hung up a bunch of Daniel stuff on the walls. And then the original idea was based in our local town, and we had that in mind, writing the story, that it would be on Main Street, and that they would exit the wax museum onto the main street and terrorize a little house on the main street, and then the big finales on the street in front of the Cope, which is like a local business who like helped us a lot with like building materials and stuff, and we always planned to have them in the video in the background as sort of like a mini advertisement for them. So yeah, that's kind of that's why it is the way it is, and why it is where it is.
We had 6 days to shoot it all, and most of it was at night, and we were shooting in the middle of summer, so it could only start at 11 p.m. had to be finished at 4 a.m. So time constraints was a huge factor.
But it was raining.
It did rain a lot, yeah. And in terms of the pre-production, like Shaun said, with the wax museum, building the set, it was all real awards that Daniel had there. It was actually all of his stuff, all his real stuff, that was just in someone's shed. We were like, can we take this? And we loaded up into a big van. We drove it ourselves down to the gallery, and then we screwed it all into the walls, and then the guy that we took it off was like, when we finished shooting, he said, "I don't want this back. It's taken up my shed. Can you please ask Daniel to take it back?" So we had to ring Daniel. We're like, "Listen, Daniel, you're gonna have to take back all your crap that you built over the years." So
he
we
waited for us to box it all up, and it was like a truckload of stuff. We had to rent a flatback to take it all the way to the museum, and then he told us, "I don't want it back."
That's brilliant. He's using the film as an excuse to clear out a shed. That's inventive.
He waited until it was all gone.
And then there's so many factors that were all just locally sourced. There's a shot where a car gets crushed when the giant Daniel steps on the car. We crushed a car for the special effects, and it was all sourced from the local car breakers. A guy called Martin O'Donnell. He was just like, "Yeah, no bother, get you a car. I'll drive a big forklift." And he had a big forklift, and he had a massive steel block, and he just shook it off the forklift and crushed the car in the middle of the main street. And
God.
And we even asked, like, I guess you could say, like, high up members of the community, air quotes, and we said, "Listen, we want to set people on fire in the main street. We want to crush a car in the main street. Who do we need to ask?" And being so typical Donegal, they just said, "Don't ask. Don't ask anyone. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone you're going to do it, because once you tell people, that's when you'll get all the red tape." They just
Better
said,
to
"Just
beg
go
for forgiveness."
Exactly.
So and locations managers in Donegal, it's a lawless place.
Exactly.
But easy to get things across the line. I don't know. We might have to cut that and get in trouble. But we'll keep it on the QT. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to any filmmakers out there, if you want to get things done quick and without any bureaucracy, come to the Banana Republic of Donegal and you'll get it sorted. So
yeah, the same guy who gave us the car and the forklift, he said, "Listen, lads, I have a fire truck out the back if you ever need rain." So, very, very resourceful town, and no main streets were harmed in the making of the film.
That's great. Yeah, I was just picturing like broken glass everywhere, someone on fire, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is just a normal Tuesday."
Exactly.
Yeah, no one bothered us. A crowd didn't even gather or anything. Because we're kind of like always making videos around the town, so there's like, the lads are doing something.
They're up to it again. Just stay clear for your own safety.
Exactly.
So again from the wild north to a kind of beautiful self-contained home that's been invaded. Sinead, can you tell me a little bit about your process of so much of what you have created in Lamb kind of hangs on that back and forth, that unspoken fear, the invasion, the building. Can you tell me a little bit about how you went about maybe casting that, how you went to rehearse it? Because it's just this lovely evolution of what's happening, and then those slight reveals as we go along that really kind of keeps you hooked, and you get that kind of like impending sense of fear. Can you tell me just how do you go about creating that?
Sure. Thanks a million. I mean, it's so kind of like all the different layers, do you know what I mean? As in like all the other people who worked on it, everybody, like, so like, obviously we worked for a long time on the script. Like my background is theater, and it's kind of funny then that the short is essentially, it's one location. It's almost, it's continuous. It's one continuous scene really. So, I suppose I always had Aoife Duffin in my mind for it because I'd seen her in a lot of theatre over the years, and I thought I just really admired her. Like she just reminds me of the type of women that I grew up with. Like she has a kind of fierceness to her, but even though she's quite physically small, like she's just really like, I just thought she's a brilliant actor. So when she came on board, that was great. And then originally when I wrote it, the character of Paul was going to be a bit older, but actually as we developed it, I kind of liked the idea of him being a younger guy because it just gave this a whole other level of like the audacity of him kind of walking into her house. So, but I would be less familiar with younger actors because I haven't been in theatre for years and COVID happened and everything. So our producer, Lara Hickey, actually had seen Aina Hardwick, he went to the Lear Academy and she'd seen him in the showcase and she suggested him. And then before I actually got to speak to him online, like to meet him initially, you know, a couple of people had said to me, oh, you know, he's an absolute gent to work with and he's really great, and which is all good. And then when I met him, he was really, you know, just very impressed by him. But when I saw the two of them together, I just thought they were great. And I suppose it was kind of, you know, from there, as you kind of just went forward, like once we had the cast, I was very fortunate to have a rehearsal day with them, which makes all the difference. And it really was just kind of teasing it out. Like I liked the idea that it was like for her, it's kind of like it is a game and it's all about kind of the stakes being upped. And from her perspective, I wanted the audience to kind of experience it kind of as she does, in the sense that the space gets smaller when he enters the room. The idea that when they sit down at the table, I would have done an awful lot of work with Dan, our cinematographer, about, you know, how close we would be in those moments. And just to kind of give it. And then another aspect of it then, because it was just kind of building from there. The edit was obviously hugely important. Our editor, who's sitting over there, so he's going to think I'm lying, is Killian was just amazing, because like there were twin babies, and, you know, I always say I can't blame anybody because I wrote the script, but it was very challenging to have like toddlers who you cannot direct. And, you know, the first day of set, because we were really stuck for time, like they can only be on set for like 30 minutes at a time. And you can't shoot past 4:30 and stuff like that. So, you know, we only had 3 days, but they were 3 short days, and we had to be very smart as to how to shoot around the baby, but then also to weave everything into a single baby performance even was pure magic by Killian. But we were just, because we did have that long edit, it was really just about like whittling it down as much as possible to kind of try to, like, you know, really wrench the kind of the tension out of it, and or into it, whatever the phrase is. And I mean, and then on top of that, then it was I worked at Dee Hexon she did the composition and the sound design, and we also had really good post-production houses who helped with the sound and everything as well, because I suppose it's very sparse in a sense. Like, I mean, it was for us, it was much like the spaces in between things being said, and those moments were very, very important. So, and the music, the sound design really helped with that, because the idea is that sounds became heightened as soon as he came in, and there's a very faint, like high pitched noise, and there's a real risk of her, especially when he knocks over the tea, just kind of like disassociating or whatever and just leaving. So it was all about kind of, you know, the space and using the natural sound. But like with the cast were just incredible. Like, so you know, the two of them were just amazing. So I was very lucky with who we worked with. We had a fantastic crew, and it just all turned out exactly the way we wanted it to.
Definitely. So this is so Aoife is powerful and she's brilliant, and she just brings this lovely warmth, but yeah, exactly that strength to it. You know, like where, you know, she's sussing him out. She's doing that thing where it's like, you know, I don't want to anger him in the beginning. But I must say, like, Anna, oh my God, this is now the second time, like, I've just been really blown away. I saw Lakelands there, and he just really transforms. And, you know, he's someone with a bit of edge to him. Like, even in that, he is that rage, but, you know, he put layers on the charm in the beginning. He kind of, I don't know, he's just really kind of visually engaging as well. Like, he's just
he's great,
spectacular in this, especially, and like that you're kind of watching him, and I don't want to say too much about it. Like, we just know it's before anyone watches, by the way. Yeah, it's so sweet. But like that, you just get. He just transforms, like he just physically transforms. Like, he looks like a different performer at different stages of it, and it's just wonderful. So I'm just curious as a director, how do you you said you had a rehearsal day, like, would you play through the action back and forth, because it is a bit of a tennis match? Would you give them their own directions separately and let them play it out? Like, what's your process there?
Well, I suppose, you know, I kind of think the more I work with actors, that it's really just about figuring out what their process is and just trying to give them what they need. And, like, you know, I would happily, I don't know whether it's advantageous or not to have written it, because I think obviously when you get to rehearsal and stuff, even if it's not your script, it becomes a different thing. You know, you need to kind of work it out with the actors. But for us, we just talked a lot about, like, I think for Aina as well, like for his process, I think he really wanted to understand what was going on for Paul. Like, that led him up to the point that he went into the room. Like I would have had writer's notes, but I actually didn't share them with them because I kind of wanted, like, you have to kind of hand it over to them, and you also have to leave space, I think, for the performance, like, you know, for what they bring to it. So sometimes it was just like, you know, we did a read through and stuff, and then sometimes it was just teasing out particular parts and talking it out. And then, you know, just watching them. I mean, like I could watch the two of them all day, like, but, you know, and I got a lot from it because at one point Aoife got up and walked away from the table. And that's when I thought and came back and said to Dan, if we could give her that moment when she makes the tea as like, that's her only moment of relief to like, what the hell am I going to do next? What's going to happen next? You know, like that we could actually stay with her. So, you know, you get a lot from just watching them. The only other thing that I did, and it was pure, I almost felt bad because I just did it because I just was out of sheer like enjoyment. But at the very end of the rehearsal day, I made them switch roles. So that was really good fun. So Aoife got to play Paul and Paul got to play Sarah. So that was that was funny. And I got something from that because just again, like you say, the physical transformation, like the two of them were just really, really great. So just to watch that was pure indulgence on my behalf. But yeah, I mean, rehearsal isn't always possible, but when you do get it, it can just be really, really great, you know. And because it's just around a table and it's all, you know, it was just trying to explore. And I think Aoife, you know, she did certain gestures on the day in rehearsal and we kind of tried to work that in and stuff. So it's always really nice to have, but not always possible, you know.
And how long was the shoot again? It was
3 days. We had 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it was only when we first started shooting, it's like one of the babies just not having it. And I was like, I cannot do anything about this. This baby's going to tank us all. But actually the babies were fantastic. Like we just worked, you know, we figured out their nap schedule. We had it down to a T. I had an amazing first AD, Niall Owens, who was like totally in charge of, but also Aina, actually, you see, initially when I wrote it, I was like, oh, it's going to be really important that Aoife has a good dynamic with the children. But actually then I realized as we got closer to it, that she doesn't really handle the child that much at all. And actually the relationship with Aina, you know, off screen was much more important. And thankfully we started calling him the baby wrangler because he has a lot of nephews and nieces and he was fantastic with the children and such a good actor that to the point he used to be outside with their mother and aunt playing with them. He pretended they were like, you know, an airplane, and he would literally walk into the room, sit down and start acting. That was how good he was at what he did. He just dropped into it whenever he had the babies on board. So it was great.
That's handy. Double jobbing.
Yeah.
Double jobbing.
No, don't say that to him. We didn't pay
no,
for that.
No. Equity will be on T now after this. I'll get everyone in trouble. So Sarah, can you tell me a little bit again about your process of shooting? You have a lot of setups in this. I know like the majority of it takes place sort of in the friend's home, but just you have like a lot of kind of big setups with like dressed up extras that performance are key to selling it. You have the tension, the performance element, the different realms. How do you go about setting that up? I'm sure that was a difficult one to plan.
We had a really, really great designer on board, Yvette Smith, who she's an absolute hurricane of a human. You can we used a lot of my own flat. So my partner is also like creative. So when I said you need to leave and go somewhere else for 4 days, they understood. So I got to kind of like we got to do a lot of like dressing up with the flats and not worrying a lot about it. We have this great speakeasy in Glasgow that's actually attached to a Celtic bar. It's very strange. But yeah, they have, so that was pretty much like it came already dressed. So our locations were pretty easy to wrangle and navigate. And it doesn't really matter whether you're working with a budget or not, you will always be calling in favors. My mum and dad were the caterers and they showed up in their wee aprons. So it was just, everyone was kind of being taken care of. And it was funny. I think the kind of one story about the plan that I had in my head was that I was going to film the big dance scene, the outside dance scene at the end. So we scheduled so that would be the last thing I shot. because there was a lot of crew that I hadn't worked with before. Like that was one of the most amazing things that Misha brought on, is that she's got a fantastically large network. So we got to bring on lots of we had a huge amount of women HODs and also queer people on board, which was really important to me. And but there were a lot of them I hadn't worked with before, so there was just this nerves about me having to perform this thing. So I wanted it to happen at the end, so if it didn't go wrong, then I never had to see them again.
That's
But
a good idea.
the week of the shoot, we realized that the area we were in, I don't know whether you're familiar with the Celtic Rangers football rivalry in Glasgow, but anyway, we were filming really close to in Kinning Park, which is really close to the Rangers football stadium, and we realized that the last night of filming was on a game night, and it's not that it's dangerous, it's just that the area is so busy and there's so many people, and we couldn't even guarantee the safety of the kit and the crew and things. So it was a case of, you're going to have to swap this. So I ended up doing this big routine on day 2 as opposed to the last day. So there was a case of like, well, we're about to get very friendly. But then it kind of almost worked in my favor, because there was this long, really hard day with these exterior, really intense scenes early on in the shoot. And then we went all into the micro of the relationships in the flat. And it kind of was like everyone had kind of seen the huge parts of it and got on board with that. So it meant that when it came down to the micro, everyone was kind of even more focused on getting that right. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise for the scheduling and things. So it worked out well in the end. It was fine. And also I will say that as much as I can talk about the planning, because I have a bit of production in my background, is the thing that really changed for me as a director on this set is just how much I was kind of almost protected from the minutiae of production. Anytime I'm like, do you need a hand? They were like, no, you go and do your prep, you go do your work. So there was a lot of things that, like, if there was any issues, I wasn't aware of them because I was being protected by a production team who knew that my focus had to be elsewhere, which is, for a director, is an absolute dream come true.
That is, it speaks really to the collaborative nature of the medium as well, and how important that is, because I think no matter how prepped you are, no matter how organized you are, no matter how all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, like, things just go wrong. Like, you'll show up and there's something there that shouldn't be there, or someone isn't there that should be there.
Oh yeah, we had one of the places we were at, like our base was at the post-production houses, and the offices were on the 3rd floor and the lift was broken. So my parents showed up with all the food, and my dad has bad knees and my mum has multiple sclerosis, and it was just a case of we pretty much had to stop filming to help them up the stairs with the food. And I was like, this is something we could never have imagined would have gone wrong. There is nothing that would ever come anywhere near the risk assessment for this, of all of us running up and down these stairs with trays of lasagna. It's very silly.
And so much of the performance element of things kind of hinges on a physical performance and about capturing it and capturing the movement and the changes in the movement. Was that difficult to do as a director when you were performing as well? How did you manage that? Would you stop it all and watch it back? Would you work with the DOP? Would you have rehearsed? Would you have a body double?
I do a lot of dancing as a hobby. I've been dancing like for a few years. It kind of started like early on in the pandemic, and it's been a bit of just something that it's been really kind of important to me. I'm working on a documentary just now about the world of dance for plus size people, and how you kind of assume it's something that you can't do, but if you grow up doing ceilidh dancing, which is disgusting and sweaty and minging, then you're like, nah, I've been doing this the whole time, it doesn't really matter. So like, dance is something that's always been really like kind of important to me, so I wasn't really as nervous about the actual physicality movement of it before. So I was working with my dance teacher as the choreographer. We had access to the spaces, which she provided in kind. Our DOP came along to the dance rehearsals and things, and then when we broke down each movement, each section, each part of the music, then we knew what we were looking for. So it meant that when it came a point for me to show up and dance, I'd kind of already done all of my work in my prep, so I didn't have to watch anything back. I watched some of the emotive stuff back, but there wasn't any of the dance stuff I didn't get back. I was just looking at the people who were looking after me, and just saying, have I got it? And they were like, yeah, you've got it. So then I trusted that. And I never got to the edit. I never thought, oh my God, I wish that someone had told me to do this differently. Like I trusted them, and it paid off because I got it.
So just to tell me a little bit about how, like, what what were some of the issues? Like, okay, so that was a big kind of physical one, and then setting up of those locations. You were saying at least they were kind of more or less in position, but like, what would be some of the issues that you'd have from going from location to location to location like that?
I think just the time of year we were filming at, because of the scheme that we were on, we were told that we had to we got the funding in September, and we were told we had to deliver by the end of the financial year in April. So we were turning things around really quickly, and we were like, okay, we're going to have to shoot at the end of January, start of February. And just in Scotland is just there's no light. There's just no light at that time of year. You have daylight from maybe 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, if you're lucky. And if the weather's bad, then it can be so dark. So that we were taking, and there was quite a lot of like external stuff. So we're taking a bit of a gamble. But yeah, there's always that problem, is like you're always knackered on set, but at least in summer you've got that. You're not going to work in the dark and coming home in the dark. So I think just the timing was a bit of a mess. But to be fair to us, that we did decide to take that on ourselves, because at kind of late December, we got told that the financial year limit no longer applied, because the funders had got another year to run the program again. So they're like, we don't need to deliver everything now. You've got until the next year. So every other project in my cohort took their foot off the gas, but we'd already made such strides to actually put the shoot in place. We're like, we kind of have momentum now. We could just carry on and then just try and nail this as soon as possible. So, which I think worked for us in terms of what our ambitions were for how we wanted to use the film and how we wanted to see it, because it meant we got to debut in October, which was around about the same time that everyone else in my cohort was shooting. So like we were kind of out and in the world like really quickly, but it did mean that there was a lot of there was this other program. So because we were still kind of coming out of COVID times in January 2022, we were doing as much as we can to maintain social distancing, and my flat isn't exactly massive. We had lots of spaces in the close, but we decided what we would do is we had this marquee, like just a summer one that my parents had, and we put it in the back garden. So we put it up before the shoot started, and then there was a storm with like 40 miles an hour winds, and this tent just got absolutely annihilated, just utterly destroyed. And we're like, well, the remains are still in my garden.
Oh no.
So yeah, but that was the worst of the weather, which was good. We had really, really terrible rain on the first day, but we were inside at the cabaret club the whole time, so it wasn't really affecting us. But yeah, so I think just in terms of doing multiple locations and going from place to place and not having everything inside or lit or in a studio space in Scotland in February was crap, but we managed.
I was going to open it up to see if you guys had any questions for each other about each other's films or about the process of anything like that.
Sinead, how much did the wolf door knocker inform your decision to go with that cottage?
Actually, it was just a happy coincidence, which is kind of hilarious. Yeah. Thanks for noticing.
It's a happy coincidence. Amazing.
Yeah, very funny.
I just want to say, Lamb, I just thought it was so well executed, and I just thought the script completely disappeared from the offset, and it was just all about the performances, the visual storytelling, and I just thought it was executed beautifully.
Thanks a million.
And I was going to ask as well, the sound design was incredible, and I just wanted to ask, did you record the babies for like reaction noises after the fact, or?
Yeah, very much the sound of the children would be, kind of spliced together, if you know what I mean. So which is why I had to kind of reassure their family when they came to see it that the babies weren't crying for that amount of time, that a lot of it was cheated, But I was kind of curious as well as to whether they'd be able to tell which twin was which at the different times, and their mum was able to tell them apart, and their grandmother could tell that by the which twin was crying at a particular time, which was kind of funny. But yeah, it was all very much pieced together, just like the kind of performance, really. I just had I just loved Candy. I thought it was great. I just Yeah, I mean, sorry, we're shooting something else, so I feel like my brain is a bit mush today, but I'll try and articulate why I loved it so much, and then probably send you an email afterwards that will say it better. But I just loved it. I just thought, like, you know, it was just so, just a really kind of like fresh take on, you know, all the themes, and just really funny, and yeah, I just loved it. Just very, very smartly done, and I thought it was great.
Thank you so much. Like, I'm also a mushy brain today. Like, I've been at the Glasgow, like, this month has been really crazy because the Glasgow Film Festival was the first week, and then the BFI Flair Festival was the second week, and then the Glasgow Short Film Festival was last week, and like finished like at 1 o'clock this morning. So I'm a little bit like, where am I and what is going on? But yeah, I really appreciate that. But it's really, really nice to hear, especially from other filmmakers, because every time I see the film and it starts off, there is that like small moment of panic where I'd question every decision that I've ever made in my career. So
just wait till you see
Thank
Night
you
of the
so much.
Daniels.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Night of
There's a lot of
I can't wait to
questions.
see it.
But I
Yeah, I
think
thought
Jenna,
Candy was incredible.
yeah.
It was like a little. It was. I kind of want a feature with Mandy.
yes, actually,
You
that
know?
was one
Yeah.
of my things that I had. If we got time to do it, where I'm like, I would really exist in that world for so much longer. Like,
Yeah,
the
We
characters
want more
are
Mandy.
brilliant.
We want more Mandy.
yeah.
We need more Mandy in the world.
I think I'd love that, but I kind of haven't really thought about it so much, because I kind of, if I try and think about a story, if I try and think a story into existence, then it doesn't usually work for me. Or if I do, it's cack. But ever like, I'll be doing my dishes and I'm like, where's my phone? I've had an idea. I do think there is a story there, but I just haven't figured out what it is yet. So I hope that it comes, because I'd love to spend more time with her, because it was so much fun and it was so ridiculous. And I would definitely like to do more, but God knows how I would go about it or what it would actually be about. Or
her in her taxi.
Yeah.
It's just she's a great character.
Thank you. My dad's taxi, who really wasn't impressed when he saw me climb on the back of it.
I thought the performance from her friend's boyfriend was amazing as well, and this, in very few words, you get the idea, you know, that he's very manipulative and controlling.
He's so sweet. He's such a sweet guy, and it's really funny when you watch the monitor, just how he goes from like this little teddy bear smile to like the scariest guy. You're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
No, he was amazing.
He was brilliant. He was really brilliant.
I just want to say before Sinead has to go that I don't know, being in a podcast with two filmmakers such as yourselves, having seen your work, just seeing how brilliant it was, it's almost a huge compliment for me. I'm going to speak for you, Shaun, as well, but it's like a huge compliment to be here with you guys, especially when you see our work, because you guys is just, I don't know, I think it's way better. But and it kind of validates the journey that me and Shaun are going on, that we're on the same podcast as two filmmakers such as yourselves. I don't know. Just after when I watched your films, it was just I don't know, they were brilliant. So.
Stop, would you? That's
stop.
Honestly, it's so funny. It's so brilliant. It's so like, over the top in that real kind of like campy, nostalgic way. It's like again, there's so much physical. Like it's a very different genre of film. But I'm like, that's why I really enjoyed watching the three things back to back, because they were a completely different genre of films. Like it's kind of like 80s B movie meets and then, you know, kind of like heartfelt friendship comedy drama, and then like terrifying thriller that will haunt you. Like it was a nice kind of mix, and just goes to show the programming of the festival. I'm sure there's great things on offer there, so you're in very good company at the Achill Island International Film Festival as well, that takes place this May, so make sure you get your tickets for your screenings.
But can I ask Ciaran and Shaun just one question? I'm actually have you always co-directed, and how did you kind of work out a process around that? Because I'm actually co-directing a short at the moment, and I'm just curious about how people, not that it's not working, it's just new. I'm just curious because you know, was this the first time you co-directed, and how do you find it?
I think if you've we like to imagine that we're on a similar path sort of to the Daniels who made Everything Everywhere All at Once, and they were making videos together since they were young, and they started off making music videos and commercials, and then they ended up making features. I think it's just we've been friends for 20 years, Kieran and I, so we kind of do everything together, and we think the exact same way. In terms of like the process and co-directing, we we were wearing a lot of caps when we were making Night of the Daniels. We didn't really have a full production crew. One of us would always be holding the boom, one of us would be operating the camera, and we would be putting up wallpaper in between takes and stuff. So like, I don't know if we're the right people to ask, but
yeah, it was a real give and take process. And it's just about taking, I don't know, finding initiative, or reading the room where you just know where, like, okay, you can handle this scene better, or I don't know. Yeah. And I guess it just comes, it's kind of a weird one because it's not so much co-directing in a professional sense, because we've known each other since we were nine years old. So we've always kind of come as a pair. So maybe we're not the right people to ask, but it's just a give and take, and just kind of reading the room, and who's going to take the initiative and working on each other's strengths.
For this particular project, it was like, I'm knackered, you take over. we had like
that's good too.
Hours
to
shoot.
Yeah. Just a tag team, You go
I'm knackered. I'm going to go have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
There's another team that I was chatting to, and I can't remember the film, but they were saying that one does the actors and one does the camera. So like, if there's an area, like, that's a very interesting thing as well, where it was like, and then they come together and they edit and they share the opinions, and then it's like they discuss it as that team. But I was like, but they actually take different roles on set. So one would kind of compose the shots more, and the other one would be over in the corner working. And they kind of found that it worked that way, and then would confirm the bigger moments of both them. But it's interesting. Like, I suppose it's just how long is a piece of string? So you'll have to come back to us and chat about that one as well. It sounds very interesting. Great. So I did want to ask about how the films, like Sinead, you did mention this with yours, about how people have reacted to that specific thing that we will not mention in this podcast. but what has the response been overall to the film? Like, have you gotten feedback? Like, now this is Shaun and Ciaran, yours was online, and what I would say is probably unique in that it's going out to like a very strong fan base. Like Daniel is someone who has a lot of like big hardcore fans as well. So it's interesting to see how they would have received this film, but like, what's been the feedback, or what, since watching it with an audience, is there anything that maybe surprised you in the feedback that you guys have gotten? So I'll start with you, Sinead.
Yeah, I suppose I just love watching it with an audience. I suppose with COVID, we were so not able to do that for such a long time. And we were very fortunate to premiere in Tribeca, and I've never premiered my work outside of Ireland. So my initial thing was like, oh my God, like, is it going to land? Because it's an Irish film and you just don't know, will something be lost in translation or whatever. And so that went really well. But then we had our Irish premiere, and then I was even more nervous because I was like, oh my God, it's an Irish audience and it's an Irish film. So then I just realized that, being nervous was like the base level, and I just had to embrace it. And, but yeah, I mean, people were, a lot of good feedback. Like, some people tend to be quite nervous at the start. Like, they'll laugh, when he initially enters the room and what he says and things like that, because they're just trying to kind of like figure out, but yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. My favorite screening so far has been in Cork, because we shot it in Cork, and Aina's from Cork, and so just watching it with a Cork audience was very good. And I also sat at the back for that.
Cork, there's a kind of friendliness as well, like an expected friendliness where and this really plays into that thematically.
Sure. But so yeah, I mean, and we've gotten a couple of prizes, which was fantastic, and we're nominated for the IFTA now, which is brilliant. So we're it's been on a great journey so far. Like us all, you just keep putting it into the festivals and you just cross your fingers. But there's such strong work out there at the moment, particularly in Ireland. Like, a lot of the Irish films are doing very well at the big festivals. Clearly there's a lot of strong people out there making good work. So yeah, I mean, it's been good. It's overall very positive, and very much like going on and on about Aina and Aoife, and I'm like, yeah, I know, and Aina is definitely going to be famous, and he's promised that he'll remember us, so it's okay.
Good, he definitely will. Oh my God,
yeah,
like
going places.
Yeah, and he's so young, like it's crazy.
Yeah, but Lakeland's like he carries this weight and is such an unlikable character, but yet has a charm. Like he is just brilliant. He's 100% one to watch. Like I can't wait to see the next thing he's in. Like he really has a range as well. What about yourselves, Ciaran and Shaun?
The launch.
Yeah, like how what is the feedback been
well
like?
a couple of Daniel fans commented that they think that Daniel is now worshipping Satan. No, honestly, we couldn't believe how positive the reaction was and the feedback was, and we got like 1,000 new followers that were all over the age of 75. So yeah, I think bizarrely positive for like what it was and what it is, and I think we had to release it around Halloween for it to make any sense at all. And if you know Daniel O'Donnell at all, then you know that this is so the other end of the direction he goes normally. So but actually the year before we released Night of the Daniels, we did a music video called Down at the La-Di-Da, which was like an animated dreamscape thing where Daniel O'Donnell enters his own dreams, and he's in a bar called the La-Di-Da, and it's all like animated, and that sort of like led people to thinking maybe Daniel is a self-aware legend. So maybe that planted the seed and sort of allowed us to go a little bit crazier with Night of the Daniels. But yeah, Ciaran and I, cringe a little bit when we watch it because we know all of the disasters.
And that's always the way. That is always the way.
Yeah, from all the way through, there's just so many stories about what went wrong and how we overcame it. But no, I mean, it's a beautiful disaster at the end of the day, and we love it, and people seem to really like it. It's always the thing now that people, they come to us and they say, "Oh, you are the guys that did that Halloween thing with Daniel."
You'll go on to do like a serious animation feature, that, about like really dark themes, and you'll always be known as those guys, the Night of the Daniels guys.
Hopefully.
Exactly.
And Sarah.
I had this really weird experience. So Candy's been out or like going to festivals, mostly around the UK, since October. But yesterday it had its kind of Scottish premiere in Glasgow, which is like my hometown. I've lived here my whole life. So I showed up to it not nervous at all, because I'm like, it's fine, everybody's seen it. Just because I just thought that I'd been so liberal with the link. I've been told, Misha was like, okay, friends and family only. And I've been like sending out people like, oh, I'm looking forward to see Candy. And I'm like, here's the link. But then I walked into an audience and I was like, oh no, everyone hasn't seen it. Like, I know there's so many people here I know haven't seen this. And then I got suddenly nervous because it was like really stressful, because a lot of people already know me and know my work, to then see it like me in such a different way actually on screen was mad. But the reception's been really friendly, and but yeah, it's been really friendly. It's been great. My biggest win so far is that the film won the 16 Days, 16 Films Film Festival, which is a film festival specifically about ending gender-based violence. It runs alongside the UN 16 Days of Activism. So we put it in because we knew that the themes we wanted to talk about, but we kind of thought it's kind of about the best friend. It's not really going to be taken seriously. So we were really surprised. And when we won, they said that it highlighted the importance of female friendship, and I could have cried. Like that's all I really want to talk about is the importance of female friendship, and how there is no fat girl best friend. We are not a subordinate, we are equal, and we are essential to each other. So it's been really, really great that people are seeing that and getting that and feeling that that's important to them as well. So it's been so lovely. It's been so great. And also I think that as daft as it is, it's just made my confidence soar, even though I kind of did it for the sake of like the film. I'm like, oh no, the film has done me personally, not just professionally, a lot of good as well. And there is an element, like I kind of realized there is going there is something to be said for faking it till you make it for confidence. So it's been a really lovely experience so far.
Well, that's lovely to hear, and that's a lovely sentiment to end on. So I'll just say thank you guys so much for chatting with us. I honestly could have stayed an extra and had loads more questions that I'm not even going to ask because it was so interesting. So that hopefully we'll see you at the festival. It's a fabulous location. Achill is on the map now after what is it, My Sailor, My Love, and Banshees. So if anyone is around, make sure to go see it. There's these 3 fabulous films and a whole lot more to catch. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you guys.
It's so lovely.
Thank you so much.